Call the meeting back to order. We were in a closed session a little bit earlier, so we'll just reconvene here and begin and welcome everybody to tonight's meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of Amery, and thank you for coming out tonight. To begin with, we have a spotlight on education. We have Deb Rudquist back again tonight. I like having this. This is a good thing, and we're going to talk a little bit about STEM, I think. So, Mrs. Meyer, are you got it from here? Great. Fantastic.
We would like to welcome Mrs. Rudquist back to our board meetings. We like her here in this fashion. Our kindergarten teachers wrote a district mini grant, which was kind of the impetus behind this kindergarten STEM and literacy evening. And Mrs. Leadholm is here to represent our kindergarten teachers, so I'm going to turn it over to her, and she'll just tell you a little bit about it and how we involved Mrs. Rudquist.
Hi. As you board members probably know, we did indeed receive a mini grant from you, which we're thrilled about. And one of the things you might like to know is we first heard about this idea at Ed Camp that we went to in Somerset this fall. And an idea was shared with us by the teachers at St. Croix Central. And so we kind of put our own little twist on it and decided to go with it. So we're basing it on 3 common folk tales, and we're introducing STEM activities to go along with the 3 billy goats, etc. So as you know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so we'll be providing experiences for our kindergarten students and their families on February 9th at the elementary school. And the idea is to promote these activities, provide a positive interaction among adults and children alike, and really help set the foundation. As you know, kindergarten sets the foundation for learning throughout our lives. And we want to make sure that our students get a good, healthy start and a positive way to learn, and to work with families as they learn. And so that night we'll be providing opportunities for them to have to encourage their creativity and their imaginations, positive play experiences, and teachers will be on hand to help foster that. And so that's what our evening is about.
So we want to thank Deb Rudquist because we applied for an Amery Foundation grant, and her board approved it. And so she's here to present us with a check for $1,175 to make this event possible.
Awesome.
Yes.
Hold on.
Did you want to say that?
Yeah, we want to get a photo of that with all you guys there, too. Up in front. Yeah.
Just a couple words. One of the things that our board grant committee mentioned is that this was the best written grant we've seen, and it must have been written by teachers. So we were impressed.
Thank you.
Awesome.
No punctuation problem.
Oh, Tracy. Really? You're good. You're good. Great. I got it, too. Yeah, we want to make sure we get photos of that. Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you again to the Amery Hospital and Clinic and to the foundation for their continued support here of the school district. 2 months in a row. It's a terrific partnership, and we appreciate it. Another in a long line of all the great businesses that are supporting this district throughout. So thanks, Deb. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, that's great. We, I see, have some band people here. Mr. Boyd. I'm going to report on the band trip. Oh, we got a whole mess of them. Mr. De La Cruz, Mrs. Munson. We got the whole mess of y'all here to talk to us about the band.
Yes, so as I think several people are aware, the high school band and color guard traveled over winter break to New York 115 people, including 13 chaperones and myself, for about 5 or 6 days, 24 hours on a bus out, 24 hours back, 4 or 5 sicknesses, including myself. And we have Zach De La Cruz, who's going to tell you some about it.
Yeah, I'm not too prepared, but I'm just supposed to talk about my favorite stuff. So, I really loved, well, first of all, the party. What teenager doesn't like a party? But there were a lot of new different things that I kind of learned, even though I've been to New York City before with my mother, and that was kind of her idea. It was a Christmas present, but still. We went to Liberty Island, and then we went to Ellis Island, and I had never had the opportunity to go to Ellis Island. And there were several different things there that I didn't really know. They have like a huge wall of all the different names of people that came through, and I got to shit out with my friends, which I haven't really done that much here in Amery since I am a new student, and I had a lot of fun.
I did too. My name's Beth Munson, and I am automatically a band booster because my daughter's in the band, as all parents in Amery are band boosters, and I'm also on the band board. And I want to extend my thank you to all of you, the board, the administration, Mr. Peterson, for all the support you guys give the band. It's no surprise to anybody that it's a wonderful, wonderful organization. Beautiful things happen in that band room. You know, when these kids spend 8 years on one common cause, it's cool. It's just cool. This is off the subject of the trip, and I'll be brief, I promise. But if any of you were at the basketball game Friday night, I think that was an overflow of the trip. That band was lit. That's all I can say. Yes, they had some alumni back with them, but it was just electric in that gym because they were still so excited to be a band. And I think that just comes from that camaraderie. The kids were great. They were respectful of each other, of the adults with them, of the servers, of the tour guides, and it was just wonderful. I want you all to be proud of them and what you all produce in this town. So thank you.
Great. Thanks.
So what was your favorite thing about the trip?
My favorite, hanging with the kids, probably the best. And the fact that it was relatively drama-free. It went so smoothly. Thanks. I mean, relatively. No, really. I mean, Mr. Boyd was solid, you know, in the planning before, any decisions made on the trip. The kids were flexible. They were cool. They went with it. I loved everything we did in New York. Every little thing. And you know, it was a wave of emotion. Everything we did, it was for a different thing that I got a little emotional now and then, but it was just wonderful. Trust me that it was well worth every effort that went into it. And every dollar that went into it was well worth it.
I'll just real briefly echo thank you to everybody who made this possible, the administration, the board, all parents and students who donated time, effort, resources to make it happen. It was a really special trip. The pretty consensus favorite part across the band was we got to see School of Rock on Broadway at the Winter Garden Theater, which was pretty neat. 8- and 9-year-olds, just really good musicians, made us all feel a little bad about ourselves. We saw the New York Philharmonic with the principal trumpet player playing a solo who had just left Chicago, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Just really masterful musicians. We saw Wynton Marsalis' group play, and Wynton Marsalis. Joseph Alessi, who is maybe the best trombone player on the planet. And I say that with no hyperbole. He is quite possibly the best trombone player living. Saw him play a premier concerto. It was just really special to everybody involved, and thank you to everybody. We will stop talking. We have a short video with several pictures.
Can you tell us a little about the video?
So that was one of two performances that we did in New York. The second was on the ship of the USS, the deck rather, of the USS Intrepid, which is a sea, air, and space museum. What you just saw was the Amery High School band playing a song that they had not seen before. They first saw the music that morning. We rolled into that studio, which is an actual recording and rehearsal studio used by several famous bands. I think the gentleman who showed us in had said he had seen the Foo Fighters there earlier that week, which is pretty neat. And so they saw that music. They were conducted by a Broadway conductor who is currently working with Josh Groban on a new musical. He's conductor of the Pit, and he rehearsed them on it for about 2 hours. And then a vocalist came in and sang with them to give them not only the experience of working with someone in that world, but also the experience of that is really how Broadway works. You get one rehearsal for about 4 hours, and then you have a show that night with several new musicians who haven't played with you before. So there are several videos on the high school band's music Facebook page, as well as videos, and I'll be uploading a montage later this week of some more videos and pictures as well. Thank you.
Great job. And that's still here. You did have enough data because those of us who've been around for a while and have watched these band trips some of us remember the very first one in Washington, but at least the last several years that I've been here, this was the best as far as social media that we never had before. So those of us who were back home actually got to kind of be along for the whole trip. And Beth was awesome at posting the video of the band when they were live at the ship. So that was really cool, and there were a bunch of us. I could see the 40 or some people watching it at that time. So thank you for your work.
Mine and Alan Carlson's could have more people, and I'm holding them. It was wonderful. But that ship, I'm sorry, I'm really almost done. The kids were on the deck of that ship with fighter jets around them and the New York skyline around them. It was awesome.
Well, thank you for those of us left behind that we were able to watch and live vicariously through all the rest of you. So that was great. Thank you for doing a good job. All right. Good deal. So we can move on to our consent agenda items now.
I had the consent agenda. I had the vouchers. How's that? Consent. I would like to make a motion that we accept them as presented.
Okay. Motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Keith? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Community comments. Anybody here to speak? Then we'll move right along to our administrative reports. Mr. Kukta.
Okay, just real briefly, had a legislative luncheon last Monday with Senator Harsdorf, Representative Jarko, and about a dozen and a half district administrators from northern CISA 11, and they gave us kind of a snapshot of what we can look forward to in the upcoming budget, which they'll be starting this coming week. Also talked with Dr. Tony Evers and Dr. Mike Thompson last Friday at CISA 11, and we'll be heading to the state convention for the school board convention this coming week. They both, Dr. Evers and Dr. Thompson, presented on the budget that they are proposing to the state legislature. And we had a school calendar committee. There may be a report on that as well, meeting this past week, and there will be action on that. And then we are investigating the possibility of a virtual charter school, which we've had some discussion on, but we'll have more discussion about that. There's an application due to DPI that will complete by the end of January if we decide to move in that direction, and that's a possibility. In order to be a virtual charter, in order for students to open enroll through virtually, we have to be a charter. So that's something that we're looking further into and what possibilities we have.
Okay.
So
over there.
Just want to mention to parents of 8th graders that a reminder that freshman registration night's coming up on February 6th, and that's at 6 o'clock at the high school. You should be getting an invite in the mail soon, other than the newsletters we've sent. And that's kind of a time where they get together and learn all about the different courses and how credits work and the programs that are available. So it's a good night for 8th graders and their families. Students in grades 3 through 8 just finished up Prairie Fire Theater. And I know Tracy with Community Ed does a really good job running that. Beauty and the Beast this year. That's always been a real popular event for kids, getting them into theater. Middle school forensics is kicking off this month, and we're excited to send our team to the first level 1 competition. And then we just started out Gifted and Talented Quiz Bowl in 6th grade. And they take that pretty serious as they compete for the championship. It takes about a month, but we're excited for that.
Amery's free preschool developmental screening will be offered at the Amery Public Library on Tuesday and Thursday, February 7th and 9th, from 3:30 to 6:50. So people should look for information in the mail, but want to really ensure that everyone knows that we welcome any preschool children of any age to attend if there's concerns about vision, hearing, or general development. So again, it's at the Amery Public Library, and there will be posters and things coming up. So,
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Peterson, I believe we have a transportation report.
And I will be brief tonight too, because I know you've got a busy night here tonight. So I think I'm on the agenda to give another report here in June, so that will be a more in-depth report then. But I did want to let you know that we've got our 2 buses that came. They came in December. Hopefully we'll get a couple pictures up there. We put them into service December 9th and December 13th. There's a side of one right there. These are diesel buses that we got this year. So they look like most of our other buses do, and they are awesome. And I've got 2 very happy bus drivers that are driving those buses this year, Josh Bump and Alan Carlson. They both take a lot of trips, so they'll be putting plenty of miles on those. Also that I wanted to quickly talk about tonight was each year I track how many kids ride the school bus to and from school. We do get state aid for anybody who rides either a morning route or an afternoon one time throughout the school year. And as of this morning, we're at about 75% of our kids have ridden the bus at least once. So a little bit later here in the next month or 2 months, we'll be sending out something through social media, just asking if parents would put their student on the school bus just for one trip. That state aid is very important for us, and we want to get as much money as we can from them. And last but not least, I certainly want to give a shout out to my bus drivers and to my van drivers. This past week was a difficult week for transportation with the snow and especially the cold. And they're out there in the dark. They're generally the first staff that sees the kids in the morning and generally the last to see them in the afternoon. So they set the tone for those students each day. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out for them. Have you got any questions for me?
I don't think so. No.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right.
And thank them for us as well.
Yes.
Okay. Move on to our informational items, student achievement update. Mr. Cookta.
Okay, just a quick introduction. We had a district assessment coordinator and student assessment presentation, predominantly by Mr. Benson in November, and I mentioned to the board that we'd come back with more information, so this is a follow-up to that, and Mrs. Wesley will start.
Okay. You have it working? All right, thank you very much. Okay, So I am going to try to quickly go over special education data, because what you're going to notice is everything that I'm going to say at the front end of this presentation will be kind of mirrored by each one of the building principals, their collaborative efforts. And it's all about close.
I'm sorry to interrupt
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I am sorry. Okay. So it really is all about closing the gap with students with disabilities when talking about special education data. So now I have to do two things at once. Okay. Okay. Special education gets their data right off of the DPI website. As you'll notice, it's the 14-15 data, so it's older than what the building principals have when they present their data. But it is what we have, and I think it's really accurate. The first thing that we looked at were the percentage of kids on IEPs that are school-age kids in the regular classroom 80% of the day or more. And that's an area that we would really like to change. We've been working on this. I think if you saw this data this year, it would already look quite a bit differently. We're looking at staff development initiatives and have been looking at differentiated instruction. That is something that we've been doing for a really, really long time, but getting closer and closer and improving. We're not perfect, but we're making some nice gains. We've had people work on summer curriculum planning, and the main thing that we like to look at is what are the criteria that we want kids to learn, and what are some materials that we can give to kids so that they can be independent and function, learning the same materials, the same curriculum as everyone else, but maybe it's a book on tape, maybe it's differentiated readers, etc. We're providing more support with special education teachers. We don't have enough special ed teachers to go into every single classroom. So it's kind of an opportunity to go in, take a look at some of the curriculum, help design what it needs to look like, and then move to another class. Our paraeducators have been trained. That's an ongoing process. Teachers need to be there first. And then, of course, we're looking at ongoing assessment of what are the classes that are being offered. So, for example, Mr. Benson offers a Saxon math class at the middle school. He's looking at what are the learning styles of kids. It's a little bit different, and it meets the needs of a different group of students. The last thing on this list is implementation of added value programming. And what that means is we're seeing more and more kids at different times of the day to try to bridge the gap between the curriculum that they're receiving in core instruction and special education teachers really analyzing that and seeing if they can fill holes. Totally different indicator has to do with preschool. We have a little bit of a lower score in the percentage of students in the language areas, making the amount of growth that we believe they should compared to the state. And similar to that is their social emotional outcome at the end of turning 6. So we're required to report on the kind of progress that they made. And what I will tell you is we're looking at the accuracy of the data, training and looking at what are we doing in creating that data. And then we're looking at individual student achievement and asking ourselves, okay, if they didn't make it, why didn't they? We are talking about small numbers of kids, so that does kind of impact those numbers. The only other, I have 2 slides to share. I'm going to let the building principals cover this more than I am. But this is the latest data that I have available on how Amery students compare to other special education students throughout the state of Wisconsin. So these are kids with disabilities. Factors that affect this, numbers of kids. So we look pretty similar in reading. We look pretty similar in math in all grades, but there's differences grade by grade. So basically our plan is really to collaborate with the building principals on these initiatives and to maintain our students in the general ed curriculum when at all possible.
So just to clarify in my mind then, so when you're looking at some of that data, are you saying that we don't have enough kids so one kid can swing it in a huge percentage area?
So for example, I looked I looked at data from previous years, and we had in the 8th grade no students. And so that is really possible that you wouldn't have a student that was measured in reading.
So you may have one student, it's either at 0 or 100.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely. And especially with that preschool population. as
Okay.
well. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
At the high school, there are 3 goals that we are pursuing, and you'll see those one by one here. There's lots of data that's available, but in standardized test form, there are really only 2 goals of it, and that's the ACT and the ACT Aspire. ACT is the area of emphasis this evening, because the ACT Aspire, in essence, is the precursor to that, so it's sort of redundant in a way. Remember, all juniors now take the ACT. In the past, 40, 45, at the most 50, 55% of our kids took it. It's an entrance exam for college, so not everyone needed to take it. Now everyone does, the last 2 years and this year. So as you'll see in this first slide for the high school,
You have the remote.
as you will see when I press the button, is, thank you, Dana. Like the last 2 years were our worst performance. Well, if everyone's taking it, that would clearly be the case. So we had a 20.1 2 years ago, and a 20.3. It's actually rounded up to 20.4 if you want to be technical. In the last 2 years, again, our worst 2 performances. So again, if you look at the last 2 years, in comparison to the state, we were right around where the state was, maybe a little higher in some tests, but we were right where most folks were. In the CSIT, we were 15th of 39 schools. And that's not high enough for our likings. We want to do whatever we can to improve that score in all areas. Composite means overall, if you didn't know. So the first of those 3 goals, the ACT. The second is the ACP, which you're going to hear about in a moment, and then professional learning community that you'll hear about from all of these presentations. The ACT, our first step for the ACT is to create an assessment team, and we've done that. We have staff, guidance, and myself that are part of that assessment team. How do we best assess our students? We've got to do it, let's do it, and do it completely well. So that's what our goal is. So all juniors took an ACT practice exam right before Christmas break. Sam Bosley helped create what the exam would be. It was 4 blocks, so it was almost 4 hours at the time, so it mimicked the time. It's actual ACT material. And what we found was we could track it, and we created it right on our own. We didn't have to pay anyone to do anything. We created it on our own in Microsoft OneNote forms, and we tracked students on 2 measures. How did they do, question by question by question? Second, how fast or how long did it take them to do it? And there are certain folks that got familiar with the letter C and clicked it a lot and got done really quick. And there are certain folks that actually took it serious and went ahead and did really well. So we're going to have to incentivize for those who went through it very briskly, because I'm very certain that they didn't do as well because of that. So we're going to have to work with them. So we have a practice test. We're analyzing those results this Friday at in-service. Our assessment team is going to look at it. And what we're going to create are specific test prep sessions for specific groups of kids. Because the kids that got a 34 or 35 out of 36 in an ACT section don't need nearly as much prep as a kid that got a 13. And test by test might look different for kids.
And you're able to respond individually because we did this ourselves.
Absolutely. And
Great.
we're also able to respond individually for a kid on a specific test question, because we know exactly how they answered A, B, C, D, or E. We can see where they picked the wrong answer consistently. So we can help them understand that might be the right choice we think, but it's actually not, and here's why. Because the questions we chose are right from college prep, ACT test prep materials. So we didn't create it on our own in that regard. We used what was already out there. So during the weeks of the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th, which is right on the horizon here, we're going to test prep. And the date of the test is actually the 28th. And our goal, as you see at the bottom, is to raise our performance from 20.4 to 21. If we did so, we would move from 15th in the CSIT to the top 3. And that would move us, my contention is at least, would move us from exceeding expectations to significantly exceeding expectations. Because that's our number that holds us back at the high school. That would be our part in moving us in that direction. The only other numbers that we have at the high school on the scorecard are attendance and graduation rates. We didn't lose any points in those measures because our attendance and our graduation rates are right where they need to be. The second goal is the ACP. The ACP you're not as familiar with probably, so I'm going to start with the goal and then go back to the steps. The ACP is, by the start of the school year 17-18, so next school year, all Amery High School students will have an academic career plan, which denotes which classes they're going to take in high school, what their post-secondary intentions are, which will generate the classes they're going to take, and what additional responsibilities they have to satisfy being ready for post-secondary life. And that means school. You can't go straight into the workforce anywhere. That doesn't work anymore. So we want to create a plan. We're going to take our warrior times. Each warrior time is 16 to 18 kids, and make them academic career advisors, where every single kid has a plan from beginning to end, what they need to take and how they need to do to get where they want to go. We have far too many kids that show up on the scheduling day with a blank sheet of paper with 16 spots to fill, and they wander around, and eventually they end up have the guidance table in tears because they don't have a clue what's going to be open and how they're going to figure it out. And the kids that have a plan do exactly what they want and then succeed as a result. Because when you have a plan, you get what you want, and you take what you're interested in as a result. So we're looking at creating an ACP for every single kid. The middle school, we're meeting with tomorrow, as you'll see up here on the steps. We're going to go ahead and match their plan with our plan, so 6-12, they'll have a plan. This isn't our creation, but rather a mandate by the state to do this. And frankly, I think it's one of the most significant mandates that we've had as a school since I've been in education. It's a very good plan. So the creation of a committee, we've got a committee of about 10 deep. Create a template. We already have a template for what kids need to do over the course of the calendar year. Meet with the middle school. We're doing that tomorrow. Finalize that document, so 6-12 looks very similar. So we have a plan that matches from the time they enter middle school to the time they leave high school. And lastly, roll it out for everybody next school year. So that's our goal for ACPs. And lastly, PLCs. You're not going to stop hearing about PLCs anytime soon, and you're not going to stop hearing about it after I sit down here this evening. You're going to hear about PLCs at every single building. The reason I mention it at the high school when we mention each building is it looks a little different in every building. So with a PLC, you're going to create a system to engage educators in 4 critical questions. First, what do you expect students to learn? You have to have a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So how do we do that? You're identifying your essential standards. We're doing that right now. We've been doing that since the beginning of the school year. How do you know they've learned it? Assessment's the way that you know that they've learned it. And the big questions, the really hard responsibilities for educators, how do you respond when they don't learn it? Response to interventions are reaction typically. And lastly, just as importantly, what do you do when they already have? And that's where you have to differentiate your instruction. And you're going to see slides about PLCs all the way through. What are we doing at the high school? They're doing very much the same thing in other schools. Create PLC teams. We're doing that K-12. Establish norms, as in what are your behavior rules for a particular meeting, showing up on time, engagement, participation, etc. Identify your essential standards. We're not done. We've got all sorts of time that we're devoting to this, but we've got a long way to go to be fully done with identifying essential standards. Align your standards with formative assessment. So what do you want them to learn? And making sure that that stuff is on the assessment, so you're actually assessing what you want them to know. And then you're identifying specific skill deficits. You want them to know this, and they haven't. They've demonstrated that they're not able to use commas in sentences, for instance. And then design targeted interventions for students to improve academic performance. Or differentiate your instruction for those who have, because there are kids that are already there. So at the high school, by June 1, 2017, essential standards for all Tier 1 classes. You might not know what Tier 1 classes are. Think science. Every single kid takes integrated science. Every single kid takes biology. Those are Tier 1 classes because every single kid's got it. If I said microbiology, only 18 kids are taking microbiology. So we're not doing that one yet. We're starting with the big tickets at the high school. Because to do that in business ed, for instance, there's 18 classes in business ed. There's no way business ed is going to get that done by June 1st. So just Tier 1.
So, but each subject area has Tier 1 classes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Identify, and then when we're done with Tier 1, we'll move on to Tier 2.
Okay.
It just looks different in high schools if we don't do it by grade level. It's just different because that's the nature of the research. I believe that's the last one. The clicker goes to 5.
Yeah. Figure it out, I hope. It's pretty hard. Okay, is this on? At the middle school.
That's all it's on.
No,
Push up. Yeah, it's on.
I was going to say it was on.
Dina's.
I didn't talk to you about the microphone.
It's dead.
The doctor killed it.
I heard that.
All right, that's better. At the middle school, we have 3 goals identified. The first one is closing the achievement gap, which is going to kind of cover a little bit of what Cheryl Wesley was just talking about with special ed. We have a goal for our PBIS behavior data, and I'll explain that to you in just a minute. And then we have a similar goal that Sean just talked about for the professional learning communities. First off, with our forward test, as we presented to you a couple months ago, on average, Amery Middle School scored between 18 to 25 percentage points above the state average in the 4 core areas, and we've always been real strong. And that led to our school report card. And we were pleased by us being a school that was slotted as significantly exceeding expectations. However, with any score or any type of report, we started to take a look at where are some areas that we can certainly show improvement on. And so you see your 4 areas there: student achievement, student growth, closing the gaps, and on-track post-secondary readiness. So we chose that area, closing the gaps, and you can see that's definitely our lowest scoring area. We're hovering around the 68 points off of that, where others were much higher. And again, that comes down to our desegregated groups, such as not just special ed, but English language learners or free and reduced kids, are they growing at the same rate as their corresponding peers? And we can see that that's the area that we really need to work on to try to improve our score overall. I was doing some research, and I want to be clear to let you know that we have really, really good special ed teachers in my school, and our kids are scoring at above where other schools are scoring in special ed. But on the side note, when their peers are growing really fast, faster than the peers around them in other schools, it does create a gap that you have to work on, and that's going to hold us back. I also mentioned that because the special ed teacher is sitting in the room. So, action plans for that first goal on closing the achievement gap. The first one is that step 1 was to create alternative math curriculum options that match the student needs to cover the essential standards. In essence, our math program at the middle school is really conceptual. And for those of you that had students go through, we use connected math. And there's a lot of writing, and there's a lot of higher level thinking, and it's mostly, I would call, sort of problem solving and inquiry. So we don't go out and just say, here's the formula, learn it, and repeat it. We give them problems. They have to sit as groups. They have to think, they have to write, and they have to problem solve to figure out, how did this math formula ever come to an existence in the first place? And it's really difficult. And for some students, that conceptual learning is really, really difficult, and the writing and the reading are holding back some of the math growth. So we do look at other ways of more traditional math. We do use a curriculum right now called Saxon Math. We are investigating another math curriculum. These are math programs that are used by a lot of schools as their core instruction. And we found that for specific groups coming right out with a more traditional approach, we get more growth from them. So we're going to continue to create this alternative math curriculum options, and we just are doing some help with 6th grade, which we haven't done other than last year. Second goal was to increase the percentage of special ed kids that are in regular ed classes with support, and that's kind of a direction that I think we're going to have to continue to go in. And we just recently added a math class with 6th grade that will have majority of those kids will stay in with some support. And the goal there is that even though they can go to a pull-out class and they can get smaller group instruction, but that teacher, there's going to be a better opportunity if they're in with their peers and hearing what everyone else is hearing at a high level with support to understand it. And so we're trying to move more that direction to help improve the gap scores. We want to create additional special ed sections of value added. So they will go to the normal math class, but then they'll have a second class that will be value added. And then finally, I want to continue to train staff on how to do this and differentiate for kids. So our goal would be to score from 68.9 to 75. I don't know if you know a lot about those school report cards. That would be massive to meet that. And but we're setting a high expectation. We'll see what happens. The second goal I have is on positive behavior intervention and supports. And that's a relatively new program on a new way to proactively deal with your behavior in your school. And it comes down to educating students specifically on expectations, rewarding kids that behave appropriately, and then intervening proactively on students that aren't. And it's really data-driven. And I'll just be right out in front with you. We meet every month and we go over all the data and we break it all down exactly what's happening. We now document to the T what time of the day is it happening? If we're seeing more behavioral problems in the morning in this location, exactly where did it happen? What time of the day? Which day of the week? So that we know we can place the right people in the right locations to try to prevent things. But the biggest problem that we came out is that our boys are getting 90% of our discipline slips. And that is a huge problem. And I can tell you that this data looks almost identical K-12. In addition to that, in just Amery, that data looks almost identical nationwide. There's a lot of research going on right now about boys in crisis. And we're trying to take a look at ways that we can change how we're dealing with those situations and provide better opportunities for kids, and especially the boys, so that they won't earn so many referrals and that they will be rewarded for other things and try to move forward as a overall school having the behavior improve. The first one we looked at was reviewing our data in our committee, which we do each month. We held an all-staff meeting to inform them of this specific concern and all the data and discuss potential steps on how we can improve as a group. Then we went in to try to find as much research as we possibly could. We found a lot of different articles on and assigned them to our PLC teams, which Sean kind of talked about what a PLC team is. They're looking at data, but they also can look at all kinds of data. So we looked at our behavioral data, and they read these studies, and they reflected on them. We identified then by each team some goals and focus on how to actually attack that problem. And we identified student movement, active learning, and relevance to the curriculum as areas of focus. And then the committee came back with that and came out and tried to find as many actionable strategies to come out and say, try this in the classroom, try this in the classroom, try this in the classroom, and see how it works. One of the examples right now is movement. We're requiring that in every class that those teachers have to get the kids up and moving at least twice in that 50-minute period. And you have to find ways that it's more natural. So it's not just, okay, everyone get up and do 4 jumping jacks. It's more like, okay, everyone stand up. We're going to throw a problem at you. And if you agree, stand over here. If you don't agree over here, you have to justify your thoughts. They're moving around the room as part of the learning process. And the goal is to continue to get them moving. And the reason is that majority of the discipline slips are coming because after sitting all day long, some of the kids are starting to be disruptive and do other things that aren't quite on the learning direction. And so we're trying to see if that will make a difference. We also created a project-based construction class for 8th grade. So we're targeting students that we feel would benefit with this pilot program to try and get a lot of project-based hands-on, getting them, say, motivated for something we think they'll really like to see how that works. And then we're also holding a lot of educational trainings. If you didn't know, Dr. Derfler here actually did his dissertation on this topic. So he's coming in to lead PDU for the district, and then we're sending staff to the Lost Boys seminar, and a lot of different things that we're doing to try and solve this problem. And our goal then would be by the end of second semester that, yeah, we're going to hopefully move from 90 to 75% as a movement in the right direction, but we'll have to see. The last goal for us was on PLCs, and it's pretty identical to what Mr. Derfler has listed. And I guess the biggest thing I look at it is, and what I really am happy is that if a student takes social studies from teacher A or social studies from teacher B, those social studies teachers now must have the exact same essential standards in that class. They may teach it differently to get there, but they have to meet the same standards, and they have to have common assessments to show you which kids did or didn't make it. And so that will be the best thing, I think, as far as unifying exactly what they're supposed to be teaching and then how we're going to intervene if they're not. And so we're excited, and our goal is to have those essential standards identified in all areas at the middle school as we move forward.
Do those essential standards, does that transcend all of our buildings? So that if you're taking it, whatever sections it is, that the standards are the same in classrooms?
Yes. Well, we all have the standards, and the problem is that there's so many standards you couldn't even possibly teach them all. They're so in depth, and so what you're basically saying is that every single teacher that teaches those one specific course are getting together, and they're through a process through a process going through and breaking down which standard has depth, which standard has leverage, and then they're basically coming out and rewriting, kind of what does the standard actually say, and they're basically then agreeing on, could be for some smaller classes 4, for some classes could be 8 to 10 essential standards that must be taught, and you must assess them with a common assessment that everyone's agreed upon during that time.
So whether it's third grade class or
Right.
English 9,
Right.
whatever, I'm just
Right.
throwing
Right
it
now
out
I
there.
have, like in my
That
building,
goes
I have
across all of our
6th
buildings.
grade
Is that
English,
new?
6th.
So
Yeah.
it's new and it's going to go across all.
Well,
of
we've
them.
always had the standards, and we've always aligned
Right,
our
but I mean,
standards,
the common
but we've never
between-
taken it to this
Right.
level.
Right.
Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty awesome thing. And the best part of it is you're giving that assessment, so you're trying to figure out what are they learning or not learning soon enough so that you can intervene. So it might mean that in 6th grade I have a teacher teaching math, and they may say, oh, I have these 20 kids that don't get it. So we need to work together, co-op for 3-4 days, and you're going to take the kids that did, and you're going to do this really cool thing, and I'm going to take the kids that didn't, and I'm going to reteach differently to try.
But you're
and-
also that way assuring that every kid's getting the same education, basically.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
That's where the term guaranteed and viable curriculum comes
Yep.
in. So guaranteed is guarantee for all kids. Viable is that it can be taught within the school year.
Great.
So, okay, so, I have the clicker. Used to Dina having the clicker. All right, so I'm going to talk about professional learning communities, mathematical practices, and PBIS also, but in terms of the elementary school. So my first goal is professional learning communities, which I'm really proud that our district has really dove into this initiative. As an administrative team, every one of us participated in a training in June of 2016. We participated in the cities. It is an immense population of people that come there. It's very well renowned, and it was excellent. We came back. We created a PLC leadership team within our district to help communicate and to facilitate the implementation of it. We had a PowerPoint that we designed that every building gave the same PowerPoint in August. At Leon in particular, we began a new block schedule. The other buildings had a block schedule. We had a block schedule because one of the main components of a professional learning community is that you provide time for teachers to collaborate. It shouldn't be after school, weekly, even though they do have weekly meetings. But if you're going to make this initiative something that is really going to hold firm with the teachers, you need to provide time. So I was very thankful to my teammates for helping me establish that within my school. And then, as everybody has said, it's the catalyst, the PLC. We're working as a catalyst to work toward creating a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And our emphasis at the elementary school and the intermediate school this year is reading and language arts because it's a major task, even though all subject areas are working on it. And it goes hand in hand with a standards-based report card. So the goal is by June that we would have a guaranteed and viable curriculum identified for reading and language arts. My second goal is mathematical practices, and I'm up before orally tonight because it kind of starts up at my building as far as the 3rd grade forward test is kind of indicative of the work that we do at the elementary school. And this year on the forward test, our math scores were 3.78 points below the state average, which just typically doesn't happen. So some of the things, we've done a lot of things, but one of the things that I'm going to highlight is that we have a CMLC math committee. It's a committee of teachers that are working through a grant out of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and they have done work during the summer, and they're bringing that work back to our teachers, both at the intermediate school and at the elementary school, and they have provided in-service training for us. And basically, the whole premise of the grant was around the mathematical practices. There are 8 of them, and they're kind of higher level thinking. We're trying to teach kids to problem solve. And so, as you can see, staff will attend a workshop. They have attended workshops. They're being taught how to use the mathematical practices. They are embedded in their curriculum in the Common Core, and they are also embedded in their resource materials. And so staff need to identify the mathematical math practices within performance tasks, and then once the teachers know how to teach them, they're using them when they work with the students. And to make it easier for the students, we have what's called pinch cards, which is a little example of what a mathematical practice is. It's kind of a visual for the kids to refer to. The elementary, of course, has more of a primary edition of that, and the intermediate school is more advanced. So the goal is that teachers will implement the mathematical practices so that our children can use them. And then my last goal is, again, like everybody else, has been working on positive behavior intervention and support. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with the school perception survey. We really had some nice comments from our families, but bullying seems to keep coming up. And so we have been and will continue to work on this initiative. It's kind of the sidekick of RTI. We had the same kind of numbers as Mr. Benson did. We had 88% of our boys compared to 15% of our girls receive significant office referrals. And so what we have done is similar. We're reviewing our data we have an identified PBIS committee. The PBIS committee shares results of the data with their team meeting, at their team meetings. They are pulling together information and research on gender differences and disseminate it to all the staff. We have a faculty meeting coming up that Mrs. Benson will be presenting information on what is happening with our data and how we're going to address it and how we have been addressing it. She also has viewed Raising Cain, Exploring the Inner Lives of American Boys, and so we are going to show a piece of that to our staff. And then for ongoing and sustained professional development, we will continue to bombard our staff with literature, and at PLCs they'll have opportunities to discuss the literature and the articles that are given to them. And our goal is to reduce the number of behaviors that lead to office referrals in boys when compared to girls by implementing new strategies in response to the needs of boys in the learning environment. Any questions? Thank you.
So last but not least, the Amery Intermediate School. And we are doing all of the same things with PLCs and with positive behavior interventions. And I'm not going to go through all of that because you've already heard it, but just so that you know that we certainly are doing it too. But one of our concerns, our biggest concern, is that third grade math test. It was the only area that we were below the state average. And so we're focusing on that. And so this just says we have 3 goals: professional learning communities, which you've heard all about, also positive behavior interventions and support, but in the middle is that third grade reading or third grade math scores on statewide testing. So what are we going to do to improve that? First of all, we have the identification of essential standards, just like we were talking about, and it is K through 12 because it needs to be vertical. We want to make sure that if there's 6 third grade teachers, all 6 of them are teaching the essential standards. And as Mr. Benson said, that Common Core are fabulous standards, but there's a lot of them. And we have to make sure that we're teaching the essential ones to every child, is the viable curriculum. Then we will, once we identify those math standards, we're doing it through district PLC work. Even during the school day, there is time, but we have designated one night a month to meet as district teams, because during the day it would be impossible for us to get a district team pulled together. So we're working from 3:30 to 5 once a month for all of the months of this year. And the first thing would be to identify those essential standards and then look at the curriculum vertically, meaning let's make sure that second grade teachers are teaching what they need to teach before they get to third grade. Third grade teaches what they need to teach before they get to fourth grade. That's vertical, okay? And then we want to look at the skill deficits for individual students. We're doing that. We have monthly student of concern meetings where teachers are bringing students that they are concerned about, they're not progressing, and we follow up with ideas. The teachers go back and use the ideas, then we meet again the next month, follow the data to see how they're doing. We develop targeted intervention programs for these kids. And we also, as Mr. Benson was talking about, we have our EEN kids, or our special ed kids, are in the core curriculum in the regular education classes because we feel that that's where they're going to get their most benefit. But then they also get pulled out into an added value small group with a special ed teacher. So they're getting like that double dip, and some even get what we call a triple dip. And then we're going to continue to implement the math grant. And Cheryl just talked to you about that math grant that we're working with UW Eau Claire. The major background in that math grant is to teach teachers how to teach mathematics. And then, of course, if they improve their teaching strategies, student achievement will go up. And our step 5 is we are investigating new and evaluating our current math facts programs to increase automaticity. They have to have those math facts, the basics, before they can go on. So we are looking at Reflex, MobiMax, and Dreambox.
Can you define what automaticity is?
Automaticity is so you know your math facts like boom, boom,
So it's
boom.
just, okay.
Comes right out of your brain. You don't have to think about it. And then the goal for us is to increase our math scores on the forward exam to exceed state averages. That's our first. We want to exceed state, and then we want to, of course, keep going. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you for that great work. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Moving forward then to a strategic plan update, Mr. Kukta.
Okay, we just have 3 slides or 4 we're going to show here. As we talk about strategic plan, I promised updates to the school board. If you recall, we had 5 committees. Click forward to move the slide. We have 5 committees: community and family collaboration, student achievement, student engagement, finance, and staff and personnel as part of our Vision 2020 strategic plan. And there were a lot of people that were involved in the strategic planning. As I reported last month, a lot of different people. And last June, when the school board approved the strategic plan, a lot of people besides school staff had input on this. And we have, again, our 5 different committees, and they each have 2 to 3 measurable objectives. And if I can then go, Dina, to the other slide presentation, we'll start out with I was just going to talk a little bit about the finance. And I know as part of the finance committee, co-chairs being Dr. Derfler and Ms. Sicking, who had worked with the finance committee, and they set up the finance measurable objectives, which one of the things is leading to the referendum, which was discussed since through the strategic planning. It's in board book. It's, yep. It would be the second one. Otherwise, you can go to the website. It is also available on our school website, and I don't know if that will work. Once we get, here we go. Okay, so if you scroll down, there are 17 pages of the strategic plan with the measurable action steps and objectives. So if we scroll down to finance, we've got, I think, page 8, Dina. Oh, I can't click on this one. Right there. Okay, so action plan 1 of 3. As you can see, some of the things that we've done, we've got a fully operational functional 4K that was done a year ago. This year we've got fully operational functional project-based learning in AIM at the intermediate school. We've got the, we're working on a recommendation for PBL and actually doing a pilot to create class in the middle school second semester. Mr. Derfler has presented the information on CT academies, which they're preparing for next year. And Nina Hutton has the maximum enrollment clubhouse childcare each year. We are at max capacity with the waiting list and all of those programs, as we've talked about. We're this year looking into, as I mentioned earlier, the virtual option for pre-K through 12. Also, we are looking to increase enrollment. We'll flip to the next one. Next slide, then. Survey community about needs, connections, and climate. That was done this fall in November. Reported last month on that information. Established referendum committee. That was done this. There was a finance committee that met in August and September, and reported back to the board. Approve and file resolution to go to referendum. There are specific timelines, and there's a 70-day period prior to the April 4th election in which that has to be done timely. And if that's done this week after the board meeting, then we'll be on schedule for that. Also establish a media campaign for the referendum and establish a referendum committee. We're working on those things. And as soon as the board takes action, we'll move forward with those items regarding the finance committee of the strategic plan. And the last one being Action Plan 3 to explore endowment opportunities and grant opportunities, and you'll hear more about that in the future. I know that we have some people that will be investigating those areas this year. Next up on strategic plan will be Mr. Benson and Tracy.
Okay. As Mr. Kukta said, we are kind of just highlighting some of the things that we've accomplished, and we're just going to go through a few points. I think the only 2 of the 5 action steps or the components we're talking about was finance today and then family collaboration. I'd like you to kind of go to, Dina, to maybe action plan. I have the clicker? No. Okay. We'll go back to action plan 3. The first one we highlighted in yellow on there is the first goal was to work with business and industry to impact our local economy and to continue to give kids services and provide opportunities for students. And on goal 3, the first goal there was to, our measurable objective was to increase student internship, youth apprenticeship, volunteering, and work experience programs. And that's really well underway. And without going into too much detail, just remind you that Mr. Derfler was here just recently talking about the CTE academies that are going to be possibly a showcase program in the state of Wisconsin. We talked about the PBL construction class that we're starting and a lot of different ways to accomplish that. This team is really tied in with the AEDC, and Paul Schaefer is part of our committee, and we'll continue to come forward, but we just really have to hit that first one. And you can see many of the measurable objectives off the strategic plan, they stretch into 2020. So this is the first one we wanted to touch base. If you go to action plan 2 of 2 for community collaboration, I'll turn over to Tracy.
All right, in action plan 2, and we're kind of working from the back to the front of the action plan, if you didn't figure that out. One of our goals for this year was to increase communications with the Amery Ministerium, and I'll just talk briefly. We actually have done that. The Ministerium meets monthly, And I think there's almost always a school representative there. It's often Mr. Kukta. I've gone to some of those meetings. We've had other school representatives giving presentations. So we have definitely increased that communication, working together with that group, promoting and hosting events. For example, the Church of Felons that will be here in the Amery High School auditorium this Thursday and Friday and Saturday. We're endorsing that along with some of the churches that are part of the ministerium as sort of a community event. So we definitely have moved ahead with that action step. And I think we'll just continue to do that. We have a good relationship there, and that's going well.
In addition, we're trying to, another one of our goals was to increase our involvement in the community club. And oftentimes people look at the community club as a chamber of commerce, and that's pretty much what the focus is. However, it's not just for businesses. A community moves forward by all partners working together. And we've had a lot of the school administrators. Most of us actually have served as presidents and vice presidents and board members, but we're trying to increase participation from all components of our staff. And therefore, the school as a whole joined, and so that all members of the school district and all members of the community club, and we're trying to get as many of our staff to be more involved and take a leadership role in those activities, and that's underway. And again, all of this ties to the ultimate goal here is to work with all our stakeholders and to work together to try and mesh what we're doing as a school with the rest of the community and all their missions. And so that was talking about the ministerium or the community club.
All right, and then the last part of Action Plan 2, the very top one there, top action step, which was to enhance and maintain the school district's marketing campaign initiative, the Like a Warrior campaign. When we started this initiative, it was meant to engage our community and strengthen the relationship between community and school. We've done, as a district, we've done some really good things. We have officially, last time I counted, 56 Like a Warrior community partners. Most of those have banners, signs at their businesses. Some of them are wearing T-shirts, doing different types of things. We've tried to recognize them, or we have held some recognition opportunities a couple different times. So there's definitely been an improved community connection there. We, within district, we're wearing our Like a Warrior shirts the second and fourth Friday of every month. We had a Where's Your Shirt Been contest last time. We had spring break. We've done a lot of different things. And our goal at this point now is to we're working on gathering together some staff members from all 4 different school buildings and kind of put our brains together and decide, where do we go from here? Where have we been with the campaign? What do we want from it? How do we keep it alive? What do we do? So we're sort of analyzing that and then deciding. We're at the point now with this spring, hopefully we can make some plans as to what we're going to do next with that.
Finally, on the first action step, and the reason we went backwards is that there's a separate PowerPoint that goes with this, and we'd have to jump back and forth too many times. But this one, this objective for our first one was to analyze our current parental outreach, communication, and engagement. How are we reaching parents? What's working, what's not working, and to analyze that. So the first part of that goal was to do a community-wide survey, which asks questions about specifically how do you like getting information, and that was tied right into the survey that went out through school perceptions, and you know that data was recently reported to you. So we want to let you know that obviously that was done. And that leads us to then our final step that we want to talk about tonight, which is we did some analysis of our current communication levels and how we're reaching parents. And Tracy understands that way more than any of us because she's really involved in that. So she's going to go over just some quick things about, because I think it might be interesting. How many people are going on the website? How often do they stay there? How many people are using all the different portals and websites and apps? So we have some data for you tonight to kind of show you what's working for us.
All right, so we're going to go through, it's a number of slides, but we aren't going to talk about all the details on all of these. You want to work that? So first of all, I'm just going to go through sort of all the modes of communication that we have that we're working with through the school district and kind of how those things are happening. As you know, the website we revamped a year ago. It's been going very well. The goal has been to clean it up, to keep it current, to get rid of a lot of the clutter and things that have been there. It's more mobile friendly, and that's going quite well. This slide shows, this is from Google Analytics, and just shows our users and our page views are the two key numbers. So this is for the last calendar year from January 14th, 2016 through the 14th of 2017. And we've had over 36,000 users to our school website and 367,162 page views. So people are using our website. They're going there, and then the next slide will show you where they're going. So of those 367 views, and we'll just talk about this first column here, over 79,000, that's just the home page. And then the most frequently visited page is actually the parent portal into PowerSchool. And that's over almost 26,000 visits to that page. The staff page, 19,000 visits in the last year. Then it goes down our district employment page, 8,542. Athletics is number 6. The school calendar is number 7. The student page is number 8. Logging into Office 365 is number 9. The high school is number 10. And we could kind of go all the way through that. But just to see, that's where people are going when they're going to our website. So it is getting used. Happy about that. Our second mode of communication, that's our school app. And that, once again, this information is actually from when we started our app, which would have been in August, September of 2015. And total downloads, kind of the key number, 1,575 times our app has been downloaded. And this breaks it down between Google and Apple and updates, and we don't need to bother with any of that, but lots of downloads. And then this shows when people use our app where they're going. So over 22,000 views of the top stories. And then mostly they just want to know what's to eat for lunch. So weekly menus, 20,593 times people needed to find out what was for lunch that day. And then it goes to the school calendar. And yeah. So, no, that's okay. I don't really know what else, but you can just see. And we can break this down any time, but just to see what parts of the app that they're going to, that they're visiting. And people are using it to get onto the school website as well. I put a link on there so they can tap there, and it'll take them to the mobile version of our website, which then you can convert to the desktop version, and family folders and staff directory. So once again, the app that we invested in is being used. The next thing is PowerSchool, and we're not going to go through all of this either. But just to show how many of our parents and students are using PowerSchool, and this is pretty tiny up here, so you really can't see this, but it's broken down by building. And the high school alone, total sign-ins by parents, over 6,400. Total sign-ins by students, 8,851.
I think the interesting part here is you got like close to 90% of the students having their data accessed at the high school. It goes down to 80% at the middle school. What is that? 36 at Lean, and down to 24. So what we do know is that as they're older and more independent, they're taking that opportunity to go in and look. And to be honest with you, if you go in there, there's probably a lot more in there off of a high school and what's going on with grades and assignments than there would be for a kindergartner. So that doesn't surprise you. But I really like to see that we have almost 90% at least going in and checking what's going on. That's just one more way of that they weren't getting before.
And it's interesting, too. I saw this today. These are also both broken up. The top part is students and parents using the mobile app to get into PowerSchool, and the second part is using the web portal. And for the web portal, the high school parents, 5,654 parents, whatever, have logged in. But students have logged in almost 25,000 times. I'm not really sure why that difference is so huge. And actually, Clint had said that our mobile app uploads or visits to PowerSchool are probably not accurate because, as some of you know who use it, for me, I don't ever turn off my phone. I don't ever turn off the app. So I use PowerSchool a lot, and I've only logged in twice all year, but I'm on it probably every day. So that's not accurate because we're using it a lot more than we're logging in. So PowerSchool is getting used. Facebook, it gets a little more fun to start analyzing Facebook, and I don't know if people realize I'm able to actually go through into Facebook Insights, and I follow a lot of other schools so that I can compare how we're doing to how they're doing. And I find great joy in having a lot of followers and recruiting followers, and I find great joy in winning. So we are winning. We have it's like 1,870 some followers. Next closest is Ellsworth. They're gaining on us. I think they're in on some of my tips and tricks. So anyway, I've kind of analyzed there. It's nice to have a lot of followers and to know that we have people out there who are paying attention to what we're posting on social media. But what's most important is I watch this column a lot and watching our engagement. Because you can have a lot of followers, but if you aren't using the page and if no one is liking or sharing or commenting, it doesn't really mean anything. And almost always our engagement is above and beyond anyone else. So I just grabbed some of the schools that are local. There are some other ones that I follow, which is why there's some numbers missing. So anyway, there are the likes there, 1,866 likes. According to Facebook, in the last month, we reached nearly 90,000 people. Engagements, 50,000, over 50,000 times. People have commented, liked, shared. There's been some sort of engagement with what we're putting out there. And then videos. We had a whole bunch of Christmas videos, so it doesn't normally look like that, but between December 18th and January 14th, total video views over 15,000. And that it was really big right there. I think if I were to go in today, it probably says 200. It just depends on what's being posted. But that was the band video, Christmas videos, the cadet band video. There were a lot of things out there. So anyway, Facebook is getting used. The other things we're doing, on the left is a screenshot for our Twitter account, 486 followers. In the middle, Instagram, 576 followers, 280 posts. On the right, that's our YouTube channel. We have over 90 videos posted on our YouTube channel, so that's getting used and is a great place, just sort of a storage place to keep our videos.
This next one is parent-teacher conferences, and this is just looking at, and I did a 3-year average, and then we decided that the numbers didn't change very much, so then we just went back and threw out where they're at. But the interesting thing to see there is that it's the opposite of what happens with Power School, where there's much higher use of Power School at the high school and much lower at the lower levels. But then when you get to parent-teacher conferences, you can see up in the hundreds and 90% parent attendance. And then 3rd and 4th grade even hovering around the 3rd to 5th grade in the 80s to 90s. At 6th grade at about 90, and then it drops to 50 down. That's also not uncommon. It's been something I tracked this for 18 years, and in my building they've been about the same. Although I do think that we have seen a little bit less with now that they have Power School to look in. But so if there's one thing to talk about is what can we do at the upper grades to get more parental participation. That's something that we need to take a look at and trying to figure out how we can do that. And I think Sean and I talked a little bit about maybe this academic career plan and having that be part of parents coming in and going over what's going on with their child would be another way to get them more active.
And this is just to show that there are other things we're doing as well, not necessarily that we can analyze. We do our 3 district newsletters per school year, and on the next slide from the survey we'll show you what the response has been to that. Our elementary and intermediate family folders that are online are getting heavy use. Bright Arrow is the vendor that we use for our mass calling, emergency calling system. Remind 101 is used at the middle school for reminding 6th, 7th, and 8th grade parents, homework, events, lots of different things. And then obviously the Amery Free Press is a major mode of communication for us. So that's just showing some of those other things we're doing that I can't really break down and analyze. Which then brings us to the very first, back to action, the first part of the action plan. A community-wide survey will be developed, implemented, and analyzed for results. And we've talked about this. This isn't new to anyone, but this just kind of brings it all together. Obviously, we've done that survey now. We've completed that step, and it's time to look at this. And as we've discussed, kind of analyzing where people are getting their information, where we need to continue pushing, who's getting information, whether it's our parents and our non-parents, and what we're going to do with that. Obviously, we need to continue doing our district newsletters. The Free Press, the Amery Free Press is huge for us, and then watching where our parents are. Our parents are using the website. Our parents are going to the family folders. Our parents are using the app. So we're to the point where we just need to sit down with this now and make that communication plan and decide where we go from here.
The interesting thing is that when something goes down, they're posted on almost every single one of those methods. So if a parent or if someone says, I really didn't know what was going on, I'm like, what? There's like 40 different ways that came to you, but that's okay. The big thing is that we're going to have to try and figure out how we can continue to do that better. So, and I think too interesting is that if we do one thing, we need to know who's our audience. If it's a non-parent, we need to use one of those other methods, and if it's a parent, there's methods that are reaching them better, or students. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you for your work on that. Good information. Mr. Cookta with student fees.
Okay, we had a request to look at student fees, and so I brought forward some information regarding student fees and fines. School Board Policy 470 addresses student fees and fines, and basically is a general policy, as all policies are. We have some people this evening that may present some information, may want to talk about this a little. Thank you for your patience waiting. Ms. Engian and Mr. Boyd.
And if you don't know already, I'm the new middle school band teacher. One of the things that Chris and I have noticed is we want to improve maintaining our band instruments. And currently, we send home 3 instruments per grade to students for a French horn, baritone, and tuba. They get 1 instrument sent home with them and 1 instrument at school. So they're actually given 2 school instruments to use. And currently, we don't have any policy explaining that this is a school instrument. It has to be returned. It has to be taken care of. So there's nothing saying this has to come back, and they're very expensive instruments. And secondly, we don't have a rental fee for those instruments, and they're very expensive instruments to buy, and also they're very expensive to clean. And currently, they're being given to the students in 5th grade and not being returned until after high school, which can be 5 to 8 years of not cleaning them, which causes huge maintenance issues, and we can't afford to not take care of our instruments. Kind of like a car, if you don't get an oil change for 8 years, you're going to have problems, and that's what we're seeing with our instruments. So basically, we have about 3 students per grade that get chosen or auditioned in 5th grade to switch over to a French horn, baritone, and tuba. And right on the top of that page, you can see that the cost of those instruments are anywhere from $2,500 up to $6,000 for just a basic line instrument. So we would never ask a parent to buy that, which is why we give it to them. So we would hope to clean those every year or 2. But with our funds right now, it's hard to clean a school instrument and a home instrument with the way they are. The average cleaning costs from French horns to tubas are down below, so anywhere from $75 up to $150, and that's just the basic cleaning costs. I sent in multiple instruments last year, and because we have older instruments, it was another $200 or $300 to maintain what was breaking. So just the cleaning costs itself are that much. So what we're hoping to do today is do what other districts are doing, and that is to charge a rental fee of $50 to those 3 families per year. And we would keep it into an account, and then when we have that money built up after a year or 2, we would take the school instrument or home instruments to school and send them into a repair shop to be sanitized and then given back to the student to help maintain these instruments. And currently, my Schmidt repair technicians see 20 school districts, and we are the only one that does not have a rental fee. They were like very shocked when I said, yeah, we don't do that. We just try to cover it with our own costs. So it's evident that this is something other schools do to help maintain ours, and we think we need to start.
Yeah, are there any questions about, this is not an action item, I don't believe, tonight. And this would be looking to institute probably next year in concurrence with board policy, but any questions?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also asked Mr. Gould to be here to give a report on student fees as it pertains to the athletic department.
And we we do the same
We
thing.
pay the insurance on that.
I don't.
Well, that's
Yeah.
voluntary though. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
it makes a lot more sense. They explain it much better than you did. They explained it much better than you did.
Okay. Yeah,
To me.
they do it.
Now it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, this is just an informative piece here so that you guys can understand how much money we are indeed collecting on athletic fees. If you go back, we've got some good data here going back to 2002, 2003, and Twyla does a great job of basically going off of, so the first column there is kind of what we expect to bring in fees each year, and the right column is what we actually did bring in and collect in fees. You can see around 2004, I'm assuming, is where we made a significant jump in what we charged for athletic fees. And the other thing to take into consideration is that, our enrollment at the high school, if you look around 2006, 2007, 2008, we were over 600 students at the time too, which is also going to have an impact on that as well. Currently, last year, we brought in $25,000 in athletic fees. The year before that, $26,000, and you can kind of work your way back to 2011, where we did bring in $40,000 in athletic participation fees. We waived fees for 30 students this past year. 20 were in the high school, 10 were in the middle school. Most of the time, they qualify for free and reduced lunch or other hardships. We estimated that to be about $2,500 this last year. The chart at the bottom then shows you what other schools in the Middle Border Conference are currently charging. At $100 per sport at high school, $50 per sport at the middle school is where we stand. You can see where we compare to some of the other schools. Whereas we're kind of the higher end as far as charging for individual sports. When you look at maximum amounts that we charge at the high school, family or multiple, the most you'd ever pay at the high school is $200. The most you'd pay at the middle school is $100. The most you would pay for a district, whether you had 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all the way up to 12th grade, $200 total, which is lower than everybody else in the conference from a maximum amount. Osceola was the only school that did not have any fees. However, the reason that all this information was so readily available is they were actually looking into charging fees, and so this was what we rounded up as athletic directors this fall and communicating with the other schools.
So this was requested by me. I think one of the things that we noticed in our survey, there were several comments in the school perceptions about not the cost of our participation, just people wanting to have better access to participating in athletics. So I asked for this information to see, if we are realistic in what we are charging, or if we maybe need to relook that to, for whatever reason. That's my ulterior motive on asking for that. So I don't have an answer, but it's something I'd certainly like us to discuss.
I think a real important point is that we've spent very modestly out of the athletic budget over the last couple of years. I keep a close eye on things, and of course, Ms. Chapek did a really there's not a lot of lavish spending going on. At the end of the year, we kind of have some high priority items that we keep out of our regular spending, and at the end of the year, if there's some money there, we say, we could use this and that. But our uniform rotation, it's pretty long right now, and we really rely a lot on our booster clubs to bring in a lot of money too. It is some money that's brought in. I'd love to see more kids out for sports as well, sure, but we don't spend a whole lot of money on their individual sports budgets as well.
I think one of my thoughts is I think I wanted to make sure that we are consistent in all of our extracurriculars. That if you were in name the extracurricular that's non-athletic, that the cost to the cost of the district is similar. Obviously, chess club is not costing our district any money, so that would make sense. But I want to make sure that we're not. I'm encouraged when I see that we actually waive the fees for kids that may have asked for that, and maybe we don't publicize that enough that if you're having difficulties, that we can somehow put a process in place for kids that might not be able to afford that. And I don't know if that's happening or not, but I'm guessing that that's information we're not going to get, where somebody's dad is, parents are going to say, oh, my son or daughter didn't compete because I couldn't afford it.
Also waived AP exam fees for free for these kids. He did so to the point of ending up in the honor roll to do so. A lot of kids took that route.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that we don't have kids not participating in anything that we offer extracurricularly because we're charging $100 in order to do it. That is pretty stiff for some families.
Sure.
To make it clear, an AP exam, one AP exam costs as much as it does to play sports.
It does.
And we have had conversations with kids as they got older who stopped going out for sports, or even younger people that we heard, had some abilities and, kind of under the radar, kind of, why aren't you going out for a sport? And anytime we find out that money's the issue, we say, look, money's out of the equation here. We'd love you to have the opportunity to play and participate. One way or another, we'll make that go away. So we want the kids out as much as possible as well.
Would you be able to? Well, I don't know. Maybe this is directed to you, but and feel free to ask questions. To give us to go through all of our fees and make sure that we're equitable, and maybe make sure that we have maybe it's having a committee to be able to look at at waivers and things like that, so that we're consistent and that we're making sure that, because I'm guessing there's kids that wouldn't tell you that that's the reason they didn't go out for, whether it's anything. It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be anything.
Well, do we get a lot of negative comments on the fee schedule at all?
Well, we got comments on the school
questionnaire.
survey.
Correct.
That's what started my thought on this.
For 11 years, and I haven't heard a single parent say anything to me about fees ever.
Yeah, I know that, but again, we saw this on the school perception survey, and it wasn't just an isolated thing. I saw it several times.
There's also an issue of remaining financially solvent.
Well, but what we need to know as the board is, if we're out of line, then we as the board need to step up and be able to find the way. I mean, that's our decision. What I want to make sure is that we're not out of, and I don't think we should necessarily be the highest charging thing.
But if you look, we're almost one of the lowest.
Yeah, so that's fine. That was, like I said, I'm not advocating either way. I just want to make sure that everything is, that we're doing
Good
the right
information,
thing.
yep.
And that we're not.
You want me to run through the other fees? We have them. I can tell you all the groups and how much they are if you want that at another time. It must be dead. I'll talk louder. I can run through them, or you can get another time. I have them here.
Yeah, just give the range maybe, because I've got it here too, the range of
Okay,
fees
well,
from.
Not that many. FBLA, $20 a year. FCCLA, $10 a year. FFA, $12.50, as in $12.50. French Club, $5 a year. Spanish Club, $5 a year. Art Club, $5 a year. Skills is $20 a year. Chess Club, $15. DI is $50 a year. Quiz Bowl, no dues, or no fees. And Stars, no fees. That's what I know.
I don't want to cause trouble where there is no trouble, but I think it just seems real steep for some people. And I don't have a dog in that fight after this, so it's just something.
Board Policy 470 does say the board shall review fees charged, so you're doing what the policy says.
Right.
And it does also indicate they shall be published and/or distributed prior to the beginning of the school year.
Which we do.
Right.
I think that this is a lot of great information and it's stuff that we need. I think we need to take it as a whole and look at it in that way, and not just, like right now, I think it's something we really need to, I have to get my head wrapped around all this before I can even.
That's why I asked for the information. I think that was, we just haven't really spent.
Well, looking at the
years.
data too, the fees have not been changed since 2005, 2006. So that's
Yep.
it's just, it hasn't.
Didn't we change them once after? When did I get on the board? Maybe that's right when we did. I know we did it on a budget thing. And I seem to remember being on the board at that point in time. Maybe it was.
Driver's ed was changed.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't think we've changed these fees in years, and
It hasn't been since I've been on the board.
the change is so minimal. If you even if you changed it $20, you're talking,
Well, again, if there's no problem, there's no problem. I just wanted to make sure that we had that. When they came with the band fees, I'm like, okay, well, when we start adding fees, we need to have a reason for it. And it made perfect sense, and I want to make sure that was just my thing. So if it's no problem, it's no problem.
At freshman orientation, and we did make a point to talk to the students too, that if paying, if fees was a hindrance to them playing, to let us know, and we would try to work with them. So, obviously it might be embarrassing for a kid to come up and talk to us about that. And parents have called the athletic office and talked to Mrs. Robarge and myself about a few situations. So,
maybe that would, calm my nerves, is even if we just had some sort of a consistent policy so that people know that their kids can participate.
Yeah, I know.
That's the bottom line.
At the middle school, we were very clear with that if you're, the policy typically has been, or the procedure has been, if you're free and reduced, if you qualify for that, then you don't have to pay the fee if you so choose. And because maybe the fee is down about half of what the high school is, most of them still pay. But
also don't want to forget, we have angel funds.
Your phone.
I think it is on. I borrowed Dina's, I guess. We have angel funds available in which those donations come in many different ways set up in each building, and not athletic fees, but there are certain that the principals, if they're aware of situations, we often can take care of them through angel funds, and we seem to always get donations specifically tagged for angel fund to also help if somebody expresses a need.
Great. That's all I wanted. We look like we're in line with everybody else.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't want to cause a problem where there is no problem. I just know that we had seen that in several points, and if we're comfortable with it, that's fine. But
And maybe getting some additional communication out is going to be
I think that
big.
to me would make me. I just want to make sure the kids are that we don't get the situation where my kid couldn't play or couldn't do this because I couldn't afford it. I think we just, even confidentially, need to have some sort of plan in place where it's more than just calling, where people know that there's an avenue that they can discuss that. We do a real good job of the free and reduced lunch, because we send out the notifications. We do a real good job, but maybe we don't. Maybe we do a good enough job. I don't know, of letting people that we don't want money to be the object as to why your kid doesn't participate in something. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we can move on to our action items, referendum resolutions.
Okay, the first one is there are two different resolutions that the board should consider based on the information that was presented last month and information that we put together with Attorney Tom Griggs. We have the first revenue cap resolution, and the board should consider whether they want to do a resolution for a referendum question, whether it would be recurring, which means every year, and when to start it, if they would next year, and the amount. Those are things to consider. We would then send these resolutions to Polk County and St. Croix County clerks, and they would then send them to the 10 municipalities for this to be on a April 4th ballot for the public to vote on. So in that regard, we have then this resolution to exceed the revenue cap commencing with the 17-18 school year by an amount for the board to determine. My recommendation is $1.9 million recurring. So be it resolved by the school board of School District of Amery, Polk, and St. Croix Counties, Wisconsin, that the final school district budget shall include an amount not to exceed $1.9 million in excess of the revenue limits imposed by Section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes each year beginning with the 2017-18 school year on a recurring basis for district operation and maintenance purposes, including maintaining and restoring staff positions, upgrading curriculum and instructional programs and support services, addressing deferred maintenance needs, and upgrading technology and building security. Be it further resolved, and again, this is the recommendation I'm making, that pursuant to Section 121.91, Paragraph 3 of the Wisconsin statutes, the foregoing resolution be submitted to the electors for approval or rejection at the election to be held on April 4th, 2017.
Okay. So before we discuss, can I get a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Dale. All right. So, discussion.
It's kind of what we've been planning.
Yeah, this is not new news to us.
Yeah.
This is what we've been working
So
towards.
the
Discussed it
question,
last month.
I had a question that just came up yesterday in my head. So one of the things that we've been talking about was to make sure that this referendum, if it passes, doesn't have that levy impact, right? And so we discussed last month, okay, well, if we see the school financing figures or whatever else come out and the budget come out where 1.9 million would actually increase the mill rate, the levy. If we saw that we could then go below that still in our budgeting. So my question is, if we do that, what is the impact? If we vote as a community to increase our revenue limit by 1.9 million, and we only budget or we only levy for 1.7 million, let's say, how does that affect in years past? Because I've always been told you want to levy to the max of your levy to the max of your revenue limit, otherwise you lose lots of things. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
The state aid is based on expenditures from the previous year, and so when you do a revenue cap, referendum to exceed the revenue cap like this, it's based on the previous year's expenses, so you have that additional amount. So if you levy less, then you get less state aid.
So if next year, let's say we look at the, just hypothetically, if we look and we say, oh, it's got to be a $1.7 million, that's really where this number falls after we see the budget, and we then increase our budget by $1.7 million to meet that, then in reality this became a $1.7 million end of the referendum for perpetuity.
Unless,
No.
You understand my question?
right, it would depend then on the financial situation the next year.
So
Because
our revenue limit is still
we would
increased.
only get aid on the 1.7, additional on that. But if the next year all numbers come in, our student population grows, our value of our property, all of those things happen, you have the authority to go to 1.9.
So, okay, I understand exactly what you're saying, which answers my question 100%. So what that does, and I'm not advocating against any of this, I'm just saying what we need to understand, what that does is change the philosophy and the action of this board, the way that this board has operated ever since revenue limits came into existence. It changes the way we do our business, because the way we've always operated prior to this date has been to find our revenue limit and levy to that. But now, if there's play in there, it changes us that we may actually under budget to our revenue limit, which we've never done since the inception of the revenue limits. I think we just
never had the ability to do
Well, we
it,
haven't
right?
had the ability, nor have, but we've
needed
had
the
the
money.
opportunity. We've always had the opportunity. We could always
Right,
under
well,
levy. We've
right.
always been able to have
We've
that
always
authority.
needed the money.
Now we have that window in there, and I just think it's something we need to at least be, we need to be understanding of publicly that does constitute a significant change in the way we've done things, and that people need to know that there's some authority in there that they're giving that we haven't utilized before. Does that make sense? Not that I'm opposed to it all. It came to me like, well, this is a different way that we've done business. If that's now, we're hoping the 1.9 million is the exact number, and we're all fine. But I don't think any of us are confident that we would go to our graves today saying that's going to be the number that we have based on.
If I may also add that I know the school board has heard from Lisa Voisin from Baird, has consulted financial consultants. Twyla and I both have talked with financial consultants for years from Baird, from PMA, and from Wisconsin Public Finance. So the expertise that you have with the financial part of of funding for the school district comes from people that have worked around it for many years.
Right, and every one of them will say, this is all based on what we think. Don't hold us to it. That's
Yeah,
the first thing
there's a
they'll always tell us,
possibility
so.
that it could go up to $2 million. However, once this resolution is passed in a referendum, if it were to pass, it would mean that the board could not exceed the 1.9 million.
Right.
Even if that amount goes up, then simply taxes would drop beyond that point.
Even if 2 million wouldn't make our levy go up, that we can't hit that
Right.
mark.
Yep. No, I
It
totally
is
get it. I just
different.
wanted to make sure
You're
that people
kinda
know that
hitting
we
two
understand it.
different goals. Yeah.
That's that it's not a surprise to us that this
No.
is a change. That
And I
this is
think Lisa Voisin's little motto of our needs are 1.9.
Yes.
But our priority is to not allow that mill rate or that tax levy to increase.
right.
And so-
Well, you could actually make an argument that our needs are more than 1.9, but the
Well,
priority
yeah.
is to keep our taxes
Right, and
the
we
same.
kind of
Right.
feel like that
Yep.
would be a number. So
Yep.
yes, you're right there.
Right.
You want to talk about the possibility of bond as well?
So the other thing that does anybody else have, one more thing that I'd like to bring up is we have had some questions already from people when we talked about this is why are you bonding for this amount, or why are you looking for a revenue limit that is recurring? Why don't you say, well, you have these operational needs, which we've done, why aren't you bonding for that and then being done? Or not bonding, I got to use the right words. Why aren't you using a non-recurring referendum for a period of time? And the answer is really simple, really simple. What we look to add in with this 1.9 million are, for the most part, forever dollars. When we add $500,000 or whatever the number would be of technology, that number lasts from now forever. When we add staff back in, that number would last now forever, and that number actually increases on a yearly basis because the cost of an employee increases on a yearly basis. So if we did this referendum as a non-recurring referendum, where we were to stop it in 3 years or 5 years, like other districts have done, what that means is that when that referendum ends, so did all of these things that we just added back in. It would be so short-sighted of us to not make this a recurring non-recurring referendum. It'd be terribly short-sighted. So what we were able to do, and what we've talked about for a long period of time, is that interim period where the cost of the employees that we're adding back in gives us that window of cushion. That's the time that we're able to take some of these items that are operational expenses and repairs and maintenance, to put that in to cover that period of time while the cost of the technology and the cost of staff increases on an annual basis. There will be a point of time where this referendum ceases to work anymore because the cost of everything else has eaten that up. And then we're going to have to come back and rediscuss this with our community. But right now, we have a plan built in for a number of years to be able to cover the increase in costs in technology, the increase in costs in the staff that we want to add back in, and to be able to fix a lot of these operational needs without having to pay interest on a bond, which to me would make no sense to just bond something and pay interest on it when we're able to do this way without paying interest on it. So my soapbox is now closed. So I would support it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this has been long coming, and it's been a plan that's been laid out, and I like the terminology, the verbiage there, because this is what it's for. This is, I've been on the board long enough to sit long nights and cut programs and staff and not enjoyed it very well, so it's kind of for a different path for us to take where we can restore some things and increase student achievement.
It's been a long time coming. We had said we were coming back to this, and it took us a lot longer.
We made
were
it a
able
lot
to-
longer than what we were originally planning.
Yeah, a lot longer. So we've been making so many cuts that it's good to be getting back into this area.
I think the other thing probably that's important to add is that we're looking at $800,000 in possible in deficit next year.
Next year.
Just based on current projections. So a lot of that's going to get eaten up, but boy, it will be, So again, why it has to be a recurring referendum, because to do anything else is short-sighted, and I don't think we're doing our job that we were elected to do, which is to really look at the long-term solutions for education in our community.
And I agree with the recurring referendum, and that was what was recommended by the financial advisors. And if we didn't do reoccurring, we could go backwards in what we just tried to accomplish.
I think the other thing that we should point out and jump in is that 2 years down the road, we have more debt that falls off, and it is absolutely within our discussion of what we're going to do when that happens.
2020.
3 years. Okay, sorry. So when people filled out their questionnaires about facilities, about long-term bonding issues that we can bond for and make sense to bond for, it makes no sense to bond for new paint or new carpet. That's just not smart. But things like buildings and facilities and long-term projects, swimming pools, whatever it would be, that we have a 3-year window now to really look and develop that plan so that it makes sense, so that it's smart, and it satisfies the long-term needs of our community. So people need to know that's also another discussion that will continue over the next period of time, and we're going to get it right. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add on that? So with that, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of this resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Do you want to?
Now we have another.
Do you want to do a roll call just because we've got?
No, it's unanimous.
Okay, good enough. No need.
You can say that it was unanimous. That would be the roll call.
Okay.
We also have do we have a second? Or was this it?
Nope, we have, there's a second
Yeah, there's a
resolution.
second one, I thought so. Yep.
The second resolution is a revenue cap resolution providing for the election. So to go through this, resolution providing for a referendum election on the question of approval of a resolution to exceed the district's revenue cap commencing with 17-18 school year by an amount of $1.9 million. Again, this is attorney drafted by Attorney Tom Griggs, and he does this for a living. So this resolution, whereas the school board of the School District of Amery, Polk, and St. Croix Counties, Wisconsin, the district has duly adopted a resolution entitled Resolution to Exceed Revenue Cap commencing with the 2017-18 school year by an amount of $1.9 million, the revenue cap resolution. And whereas the school board of the district is required to submit the revenue cap resolution directly to the electors of the district for rejection or approval pursuant to section 121.91, paragraph 3 of the Wisconsin statutes. Now therefore be resolved by the school board of the district as follows. Section 1, referendum election date. Election shall be held in the district on April 4th, 2017 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the district the proposition of whether the revenue cap resolution shall be approved. Section 2, polling places. The district electors will vote in the referendum election at their regular polling places. Section 3, notice of referendum election. The Amery Free Press is the official newspaper of the district, and with weekly publication on Tuesdays, the district clerk or his/her designee is directed to give notice of the referendum election as follows. A, by publishing type A notice of referendum election, substantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit A in the Amery Free Press on March 7th, 2017, by publishing a type B notice in substantially form attached hereto as Exhibit B, which includes a facsimile ballot and voting instructions to electors of the Amery Free Press on March 28th, 2017, and C, by publishing type C notice of referendum in substantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit C in the Free Press on March 28th, 2017. This notice shall be printed as close to as possible to the ballot portion of the type B notice discussed above. And Section 4, absentee ballots. The municipal clerks of municipalities within the district are hereby designated and appointed as officials who shall receive applications for absentee ballots and initial the same when issued to qualified absentee voters.
Okay, can I take a motion to accept that resolution?
Just as as a point of information.
Hold on. Can I get it? I just go ahead. Can I get a
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay, the attached forms, what Attorney Grigg sent was this abbreviated version, and we also have the attached forms as is referred to here, which will be published as well.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So we have a referendum. 2017-18 calendar. Chelsea, you want to maybe update on that a little bit?
Is there a?
Yep.
Well, similar to this past year, we have chosen to start school on August 28th with the official start date of being September 1st. This year there will not be, or next year there will not be a spring break. We had some review of the answers to the survey that went out, and they really didn't give us much guidance as to whether people liked full year or every other year, or a full spring break every year or every other year. So we're just going to continue it as is for now. So next year there will not be a spring break. I think it's only 2 days. There are the 2 federal holidays that are observed in January and February of Martin Luther King Day and President's Day. There will not be school. There will be teacher in service on Martin Luther King Day. And the main, highlight is that we will be ending school on May 31st, projectedly, without snow days. If there are snow days, we had kind of planned into building them into or making them up, for example, on April 2nd or April 27th, not necessarily those days, but if there are snow days, we hope to make them up on a no school day instead of adding days to the end of the school year.
So it's the first time I can remember in a long time that we've started early and ended before the 1st of June, I think. No, I'm not.
Well, I think the spring break, the lack of a full week spring break, allows that to happen. I think if we did have a full week, we wouldn't be able to.
Right. It's kind of neat.
So,
And we've left administratively, just in case anybody asks, Mr. Derfler has the decision on last days of seniors, and that depends on how the year goes. Perfect.
We won't tell them until. What year, though?
We're keeping our graduation date the same, that first Sunday in June. That was pretty much overwhelming on the school perceptions survey, that's where the community wanted it to be. And like I said, we're pretty excited to be able to actually get out of school before 1st of June, which is really neat. It's going to happen. Administratively, they have the authority to determine makeups and those types of things as long as we're.
for example, and I believe that we're going to earmark a few days as possible. We have several long weekends, and I think the teachers and staff would appreciate that, for example, April 27th, that may be a snow makeup day, correct?
If needed.
If needed.
If needed.
Only if needed.
If,
we got really creative
Yes.
a couple of years ago on how to not make things happen.
and once again, we eliminated, and I think this will probably continue, half days.
Yep.
So that makes sense as well.
Great. Okay, can I take a motion to accept the school calendar for next year?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Lynn, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Dale, any discussion, questions or otherwise? Thank you to the work for the administrators and all your teams. I know there was a lot of time. Mrs. Smith is here too. A lot of time both on the parts of teachers and administrators and everybody that brought it. So Chelsea and I really don't have a lot of work to do on our end on that because everybody did our work for us. So we appreciate that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. That is done. Policies.
2 policies for second reading. One is school calendar policy and the other social media. Just a simple wording change because the school calendar is not formally negotiated as dictated by state law. It is set by the board, and the social media policy actually was a few months back that we had brought the first policy reading forward, so these are just passing the policies as was discussed previously.
I'll make the motion that we accept it as shown.
Okay, we have a motion for both, right?
Correct.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Chelsea, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Open enrollment space, Mrs. Wesley.
Last year, I am not recommending that we close any special education programs. The only thing that I would alert you to is we're doing Child Find right now. Our early childhood special education program using the formula allows for 14 slots. So we do have openings at the present time. So I'm recommending not closing any programs.
Okay. Anything else? Can I get a motion to accept the open enrollment space availability?
So moved.
Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? And then regarding personnel, we were appraised of some hirings that are support staff, so that doesn't require any board action tonight. So we have no board action to take on any personnel, which is nice.
Yep. I can just mention that Tiffany Swager was hired as special ed director, special ed paraprofessional, as I'm looking at the director.
Whoa.
And we will.
We're all the last to know.
And Laura Sjogren is the new summer school coordinator, and we look forward to working with her.
All right. Anything else? Anybody have anything else you want? We're good? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.